Hey guys, welcome back here to Intuitive Angling, and appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check out today's episode. And guys, just when you think that you couldn't be more disgusted and outraged about what forward-facing sonar and Livescope has done to the sport of bass fishing, it hits a new low. And I'm going to share with you guys something I saw yesterday that's just going to outrage the normal average bass angler that fishes, like a real bass fisherman should. So we're going to get into that in today's episode. Definitely looking forward to getting some comments from you guys, so please feel free to drop comments down there and we'll get a dialogue started. Guys, before we get started real quick, I wanted to remind you guys of a bait that's working really good right now all across the country. Anywhere that you have water visibility over about 3 feet is a spy bait. And this is that new Megabass level swimmer spy bait. This thing is freaking awesome, guys. It's got a nice little shimmy in the water like that. When it goes through the water, the props attract fish from, a long distance away. Anytime you're catching bass on a jerk bait or an A-rig or a little swim bait, the spy bait is a good mop-up for it, a really good mop-up bait for it, especially on days that are like cloudy and a little bit windy. So I'll put the Megabass Level Swimmer spy bait link in the description of this video and my Tackle Warehouse link if you guys would like to pick one up. And also, guys, real quick, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me right now, jerkbait fishing's on fire right here in the Ozarks. Good time to learn about it. Just shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, for details. So appreciate that. Okay, guys, I saw this yesterday, this clip. This guy on there, I don't even know who this guy was. I just saw it. It just popped up on my feed. And anyway, he was talking about how he was using Livescope with I can't remember if it was a frog or like a frog or a plastic worm or something, to find bass that were around shallow cypress trees and stumps. And he said that he would, shine his Livescope transducer over to the cypress tree, the stump, and he could see the bass there, and he'd know which side of the stump or the cypress tree to throw on based upon seeing the bass with his spotlighting machine. Guys, when I first saw this, it's like just the pure, and like I said, I'm not dogging this dude that did it. I'm talking about the bigger picture here, about what forward-facing sonar is doing to the sport. When I saw this and I saw the normalization and the fact that it just seemed like this was just another way of fishing, it just freaking disgusted me, and it saddened me, it disappointed me, and it just shows how low of a place we have sunk in the sport of bass fishing, where you have to have a piece of electronic technology that shows you where a fish is, shows you a fish moving in 2 foot of water around some type of a shallow cover. Now, it's bad enough that the spotlight machines have completely dominated the offshore fishing and exploited and harassed those bass that had lived in that deep water offshore sanctuary for years. That's the thing about forward-facing sonar, guys, is those bass that have been caught over the past 2 or 3 years with the cheater box out offshore, chasing those, roaming out there in the big shad schools and stuff. Those were sanctuary areas for a fish. They were protected areas, almost like, in the off season of hunting when deer or a different type of game, they're protected. Bass needed that offshore sanctuary to get away from fishing pressure and to have a sustainable brood stock for future generations. They don't have that anymore. Forward-facing sonar has decimated that. And we always thought, and this is something when I'm talking about this guy with the, seeing him on the stumps in shallow water, people have been doing this for a couple of years now, but with the advent of the advancing technology and the forward-facing sonar transducers and different type of advancements in electronic technology, this is going to be the next area. I always thought that forward-facing sonar was going to be relegated to sort of an offshore type of a deal. But I can tell you something right now, guys. In this video that I saw yesterday, I already knew this about it, but the thing that shocked me about it was how normal that this person sounded talking about it, like it was just another day on the water. I always thought that the shallow water fish, those fish that are in less than 5 or 10 foot of water, I thought that those fish would be protected from the cheater box. No longer. This is going to be the next thing that you see in bass fishing with forward-facing sonar and Livescope, is the exploitation of these shallow water target fish. There is going to be developments, and there's already people that have begun to master this, where it doesn't matter if that fish is in a foot of water, if it's next to a rock or a dock piling in a foot of water, or underneath a lily pad in a foot of water, or in a grass bed in a foot of water. They are perfecting the art of locating and seeing those bass with the spotlighting machine in shallow water. Now, when this guy, and like I said, I'm not saying this guy's a bad dude. I don't even know who he is. I'm not attacking him personally. I'm just talking about the bigger picture here. When you have reached the point in this sport where you have traditional shallow water bass fishing targets that you have to use a piece of electronic technology in order to even fish that, if you don't understand how that degrades the sport and how that insults the bass and insults the tradition and the heritage of the sport, then you're simply unaware. You're simply oblivious to the reality of what fishing is and the purity of fishing and that intrinsic value of fishing. And I can promise you guys that the majority of the people watching this video agree with me on this. There's always the 20% of hardcore dudes out there that are completely oblivious to what is happening with forward-facing sonar and advancing electronic technology, AI, all that type of stuff. They're both feet in with it. The more, the better. Those are the people that live in a silo. They're in a denial of reality. They're short-sighted. It's all about how can I catch more fish for me? There's not a bigger picture in those anglers' minds. There's nothing about the sustainability of the sport or what it's doing to the sport or what it's taken away from the sport or the long-term ramifications that this technology is going to have on those fish that are in shallow water. And I can assure you guys, as I'm sitting here right now, those engineers and those electronic companies, they are not going to leave any stone unturned. If they can develop a piece of electronic technology and a transducer or whatever that allows people to find and discern and catch bass out of any water condition, muddy water, clear water, shallow water, deep water, open water, around cover, whatever, you can bet they're going to do it. They're not, because it's all about money, guys. Make no mistake about it. All this forward-facing Livescope bullshit is nothing about money. It doesn't do anything for the positive of the sport or the long-term security or the sustainability of the sport. It's nothing about making money. People have been brainwashed and sane-washed into believing this thing's okay and it's just the next thing in technology and you can't stop technology. I've heard all the crap about that. It is the single most destructive thing that the sport has ever seen, and it's just in its infancy. And when you've got something where people are throwing their money at this type of technology, the companies that are behind this aren't just going to be satisfied with where they're going to push it for all it's worth. So if you have to have a piece of technology, if you pull up to a cypress tree or you pull up to a stump in the water, and if you're unable to simply pitch and flip or cast a crankbait or whatever around that cypress tree or around that stump, and you think you have to have a piece of electronic technology to tell you if there's a fish there or not, you are not a fisherman. It's a venture in catching and it's not fishing. And it is an insult to the fish, because when you take fair chase away from bass fishing, you don't have anything else. And there's not a single person out there that has any type of a leg to stand on or argument that can tell me that shining that freaking forward-facing sonar transducer at a cypress tree or stump to find out if there's a bass there or not is fair chase. That's not fair chase. It's disgusting, it's outrageous, it's pathetic, it's weak. And the normalization of this by the whatever media outlets or tournament organizations or podcasters or whatever, the normalization of this type of behavior and the acceptance of it it's just disgusting to me. It's disgusting to most anglers out there. So anyway, guys, just continue, man. Just continue fighting the good fight. The majority of the anglers out there know what's going on. They see beyond the smoke screen. They haven't gotten sucked in and completely been complicit by the propaganda that the electronic companies put out and some of the tournament organizations. Fight the good fight for the sustainability of the future of the sport. And for all you guys out there that think freaking I'm a nut job, and anyone that's against forward-facing sonars a nut job, I highly suggest that you re-examine your worldview on bass fishing, because it is colored, it's been distorted, and I'll do anything I can to help you guys. If you want to come over to the light and get out of the darkness, I'll be more than happy to help anybody out there. So anyway, guys, shoot me a few comments. Really appreciate you tuning in. We'll check in later.